Greetings and salutations, travelers of the internet, and welcome to the Lit Round Table. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Anna. We'll be your wise or not so wise mentors for today's audio adventure into all things storytelling. Episode 16. 16.
Yep.
Today we are going to be talking about, let's say, absent parent trope.
That's true. They don't have to be dead. They could just be uninvolved.
Right. So, the absent parent trope. And we'll get into why we're talking about that a little bit later in the pod. Before we get to that business, of course, our Patreon is available to you if you would like voting rights on our next read-along title, or if you want bonus content. There are different levels for that, and we would love to have you over there. We also, speaking of our read-along, we do a read-along. So, alternating weeks. Right now we're reading through Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. It's been really good. So...
Has been, yes.
Super recommend all of that. And all of our past read-alongs are also available wherever you're listening. So,
yeah,
if you decide later on that you want to pick one up, totally do it. And you can follow along with our schedule. Except you don't have to wait for us to post the next version. You can speed read and just do the thing.
Listen as you go at your own pace.
Exactly. Which is awesome. Yeah. All right. How was that for a plug?
Great.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Also, if you subscribe to the top tier one to get the bonus content, just a little teaser, we just did the Wizarding World quiz for what our magic wands would be. So
there were many giggles.
What you would have to look forward to. And before that, we did what our house would be. So.
And before that, we talked about Tom Bombadil. And we just talked about all kinds of stuff over there. So
yeah,
we'd love to have you enjoy that content as well.
For sure.
It's also where I continuously propose to Zachary Levi, if he's ever listening. I want to put it behind a paywall so I can tell if he really loves me or not.
Because that's the proper metric. That's how you know. If they're willing to pay a subscription fee.
Anyway.
Here we go.
All right. So, Joseph, what are you reading, watching, playing? Can you start with playing?
Should I start with playing or should I save the best for last?
Oh, I really want to hear about what you're playing.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Thanks.
We'll start with playing, even though it's unprecedented and goes against everything I've done up to this point.
I have definitely talked about playing first before. Usually when I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, just to brush it off real quick to get it out of the way. And I've played anything. Moving on to watching and reading. Okay, so for playing, I may or may not have started another Persona 5 playthrough.
Why? I mean, I know why, but
because it's a fun game and I wanted to.
Okay.
A new game plus on the hardest difficulty, so that's been fun. Also still Elden Ring. That'll take me 20 years to beat probably because it's massive and really hard. And we had some friends over from Nashville. Josh and Sarah.
Nice.
Came over. There's a lot of Sarahs in my life right now, I'm realizing.
There are. Because you've got a work Sarah too, right?
Yeah, my boss's name is Sarah. There's this Josh and Sarah, and then there's Sam and Sarah, who we did other games with. So, okay, but Josh and Sarah were visiting from Nashville, and we got to play some board games with them. We used to do board game nights with Josh back when we all lived in the same town.
I also used to do those board game nights, and I miss them. They were fun.
Yep. So yeah, we got to play some fun games. There was one that stood out that was like ghostly pizza delivery, where you were psychic pizza delivery for ghosts or something. It was like super weird, but you were a psychic person who was trying to deliver pizzas to ghosts, and ghosts would like pop out at you, and it was like this fun cartoony like aesthetic, and there was one person was actually like the game master, and they had like the map of the town in front of them, and they would tell you whether or not you ran into a fence or you ran into a ghost or whatever. It was kind of like a Pathfinder game.
Okay.
You're like finding the path to the pizzas that go to the right houses. It was entertaining, so
That sounds
that was fun.
awesome.
Yeah, it was goofy. That's fun. And just a few days ago, at the time of recording this, Hope and I got to go to her brother Sam's apartment, and play Dungeons and Dragons with Sarah and one of their Air Air Force friends. Yes, Air Force friends.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a blast. First time playing D&D. I almost died.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh, you almost pulled a Molly Mock. Oh no.
Spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 2.
Uh-huh.
But
It's pretty. That's the one thing that was spoiled for me super early on. Is
yeah.
you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in episode 1.
No. That's when it would have happened to me. Well, so it was a very even Sarah is DMing it, and she even said it was a very combat heavy first session. Like, it was just a slog of like combat after combat with no long rest. We tried to take a long rest, and then we would always get woken up like an hour in, so we couldn't recover any of our spells. And it was a tough one. Especially
Nice.
when you start at level 1 and you
Wow.
have 10 hit points.
Right.
But it was fun. It was I'm playing a fallen ASMR grave cleric who, so it's basically like the ASMR or like angelic, but they're fallen, so they have like they've got like skeleton wings instead of angel wings.
Okay.
And I'm a grave cleric, so I am like, clerics are like healers, right? But the domain that I have is of the grave, so I'm kind of like, it's a very what's the word? Not like necessarily gothic. Well,
You're a Grim Reaper. Sort of.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the aesthetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the deity that my character follows is Kelemvor, who is one of the gods of death in D&D. He was one that isn't evil aligned. He's like lawful neutral, kind of like Anubis vibes.
Mm.
Like his symbol is like a skeleton hand holding a scale,
Okay.
which is also kind of Anubis vibes, because I think Anubis holds a scale in like Egyptian. He like weighs you. I
Yeah.
don't know, whatever.
I can't confirm
Egyptian
or deny. I can't remember.
mythology stuff. Anyway, and I made their backstory. I have all that figured out, like why they are fallen and not, like what influenced them early in life to put them in the state that they're in. So we'll see if and when that gets revealed. His name is Dristan Bedwer, which is a name that I came up with on a fantasy name generator.
Nice.
It's a really cool fantasy name generator. You can like pick a country that your name can like originate from, and like the root meaning of the words and stuff. It's fun.
Awesome.
It's cool. So that was really fun. Hope is playing a half-orc warlock, and Kyle is playing a tabaxi bard, which tabaxi are cat people. So he's like a big cat.
I love it.
And Sam is playing a half-orc barbarian, who is Hope's brother in game as well. So, it's been fun. We're like sussing out a weird like dragon cult situation.
Ooh.
Bunch of kobolds we've been killing, and like cultists and stuff. So
Interesting.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Cool.
But yeah, I totally almost died because it was like the very last fight. I had 6 hit points. I thought I was fine, and then I got bit by a drake and took 7 hit points, and then I dropped. So,
Bummer.
but Hope's character was sitting at 1 hit point for like several rounds of combat, and she just kept getting missed.
Wow.
And so she's just incredibly lucky. I was trying to stand nearby to her so that I could try to like stabilize her if she went down, because I have a spell that I can do that with. And then I was the one that went down instead, even though I have a much higher AC and I had more hit points and I went down. But
It
sometimes
happens.
the dice just decide that you're gonna drop, and
Yeah.
then you do. But no, it was really fun. So I'm excited about the next time we will play. I think it'll probably be Sunday, but it'll probably be online because I have to work that day. So
Boo.
yeah, yeah, that's fine.
It is fine.
It'll be good. Sarah did a good job DMing. Apparently, we got
Yes.
like farther than she expected us to. So she was kind of improvising there at the end, which was, if she hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have noticed. So
That's awesome.
good job to her. So yeah, that's it for my playing.
I'm jealous.
For yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. It's super fun. Yeah, for reading, I'm we're still reading Hollow Smoke for the read along, like we mentioned, and I'm still reading Oathbringer, which that I feel like every time I talk about Cosmere stuff, like the Stormlight Archives. Every time I mention that I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's getting crazy. But like, guys, for real, like it's getting crazy. Like the big bad of the series has finally like revealed himself in full like his whole person. Like he just popped up and like started talking to people, and I'm just like, this is bad.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen until book 3, which is like interesting. But wow, talk about a intimidating and creepy character. So that's Oathbringer. For watching, we just finished watching Yona of the Dawn
We did.
for our anime nights, and I'm sad it's over.
Okay, you liked it.
I did like it. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
It's not our typical genre of anime that we watch, but
No, but that's okay. That's good to mix it up.
yeah.
It's still got like the found family like ragtag group
yeah.
that like comes together, which that's like a trope that I'm always a sucker for. And
Yeah.
will always love and appreciate. I love a found family trope. I've still been watching Overlord. I'm on like the third or fourth season. I don't know. I think it's entertaining. There are. I feel like the main character is intriguing. I can't figure them out because, well, he's a like undead skeleton guy who will like one moment be really friendly to people and the next moment have like zero mercy or empathy. So I'm just
Wait, did you say you're on the 5th season?
no third or fourth.
And you still can't figure out the main character?
Well, it's not so much that I can't. They make weird decisions because they are like an undead video game character who is like so it's like they're self-aware. They're like, I'm undead, so I don't have like any empathy towards these humans. But then like they'll also have moments where they're really kind to some of the human people. So maybe there's like a long game of like those humans are specifically valuable to him, even though the other ones he didn't care that they just all got killed by his minions or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. There's like a weird dichotomy happening that I'm still trying to figure out. I think it's intentional though. Like yeah.
That's what I was getting at was if you're that far into a show and you are having a hard time with the main character, my question was going to be if it's intentional or if you think it's poor writing.
No, I don't think it's. I think it's intentional. It's supposed to. I think it's supposed to make us feel a little confused.
That's fair.
Keep us on our toes. Yeah, that's Overlord, and also Critical Role, which I just watched the most recent episode last night.
So did
you watch it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
That's why I texted you asking about
gosh.
that. That's why I texted you asking about that one character name because they all got excited, and I figured it was from Campaign 2 because it's tied in with the Cerberus
The Cerberus Assembly.
Thank you. I was gonna say
Yeah.
Academy, and I was like, it's not Academy. So I figured it was campaign 2, but I didn't know for sure. So thank you for confirming.
Yeah.
But also, holy buckets of trauma.
Yeah. That was a lot. That was a lot.
It was
That's
really
another
good,
trope.
though.
That's another trope that I was Travis, because
Yeah.
Travis had that moment where he's like, I am like a giddy little schoolgirl right now. I was like, me too. I love this trope every time it happens, and I don't want to like spoil
No.
the show for anyone. So as well as along with Critical Role. I also forgot, as far as anime goes, Hope and I have still been watching The Devil's a Part-Timer, because that's got the new season that just came out.
Nice.
That's being released every Thursday. So we've been watching that. That's been fun. And I did watch the new episode of House of the Dragon. That's like the Game of Thrones show.
Did you? I have not watched it yet.
So I would say you should watch it.
Okay.
The only thing is you have to get an HBO subscription.
I have it.
Oh, okay. So it was actually really good. And it's kind of annoying, but it's really good.
Any caveats with that? Like anything that you were like, ugh.
I mean, it's definitely not for all audiences. It's still Game of Thrones.
Okay.
It's still gonna have violence and nudity and all that stuff.
Okay.
And Matt Smith in a white wig is still weird to look at.
Okay.
It's still weird to look at, but those are like, for right now anyway, those are my only critiques of like what I saw. I saw a tweet though that someone made that was like, I would really enjoy this House of the Dragon show more if I knew that in the future, spoilers for season 8 of Game of Thrones, if I knew that in the future Bran wouldn't be the king. And I was like, yeah, that's valid. If only I didn't already know the end of this story and how dumb it was, maybe I'd be more invested in the story now. But if you can disconnect this from that, if like, it is a really good show so far with what you see, and there were enough like clever callbacks. There's like there's Baratheons again that you see. You do see a Stark at one point. So it's just interesting seeing some of these houses that got kind of wiped out during Game of Thrones that are like back now in their full glory, you know. So
yeah, the more I think about Game of Thrones, the more I realize that it was really an apocalyptic story, which seems obvious now.
Yeah.
But when you're in the thick of it, you're hoping that that's not the case. But that is how it ended, more or less.
Yeah. I would say if you can think about this show existing, I would almost just like stop watching Game of Thrones, the show, like the moment when, I think it's like season 6, which, spoiler for the finale of season 6 of Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow gets stabbed and presumably killed. Just like stop there and just let it be a cliffhanger and maybe read the books when they come out. But then watch House of the Dragon, because there's some really interesting stuff that they talk about.
Cool.
And lots of Easter eggs for Game of Thrones. Particularly like one specific weapon that I saw that I was like, I've seen that before. Interesting. Yeah, you'll know when you watch it.
Okay.
You'll know when you watch it. But no, it was actually really, really good. Matt Smith did a really good job.
Okay.
The acting was really good. The effects were amazing. Like it's like peak Targaryen power, so there's dragons all over the place. Nobody, like, the townspeople see a dragon flying overhead and they just don't care. It's like whatever. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'd recommend you watch it.
Okay. It's on my list. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It also just dropped.
It did, like, just a few days ago.
Yeah.
So. It's really successful, though. It had like 9.9 million viewers on its first night or whatever. I saw that.
That honestly kind of surprises me with how much
Yeah.
Game of Thrones like left a sour taste in most people's mouths. But maybe it didn't though. And that's just my assumption that it did. I don't know.
I think their marketing team did a really good job with this
Yes.
show. They were like, what did people like the most about Game of Thrones? The dragons and Daenerys. And so we're going to make a show about her ancestors and tons of dragons. And
Bold choice though, because her ancestors were messed up.
they're crazy. They're crazy. Which you'll get to watch in the show. So anyway, that's pretty much it for what I've been watching. Sorry, I took a lot of time. Your turn. What's going
That's
on?
okay. I'm not playing anything. So
There you go.
easy there. For reading, I am starting Little Town on the Prairie, which is super fun.
Oh.
And Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. That's all I'm reading right now. I know. Crazy.
Wow. Short list for you this time.
I know. I've been doing a lot of sewing and watching Critical Role Campaign 2.
Yeah.
So that has been eating a lot of my time. Yeah, so I have just been watching a lot of Critical Role, and so I haven't been reading a ton. Also, we've had like some family stuff going on with our grandma, and so I have not been home a lot because I've been visiting her. But that's been really good. So. So let's see. What episode of Campaign 2 am I on? Switching to watching.
Yeah. On to watching.
Yes.
It's kind of a segue because you said that you were doing a lot of quilting while you were watching it.
It's true.
And it's your excuse for not reading as much.
This is true.
Which is fine because you know what? Critical Role is still a great story, and I'm glad that you have gotten to partake in Campaign 2. And now we can talk about it.
Yes. And we're on episode 74. So it's called Manifold Morals. And that is really all I've been watching. So let me give you a couple things
I also
that
I mentioned Yona of the Dawn.
That's
we
true.
also were watching that. So.
Yes, that's true. So let me list a couple things that I am excited to start watching eventually.
On September 1st.
Yes, on September 1st, Rings of Power. But The Sandman is out on Netflix, which is a Neil Gaiman story.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of promotional stuff for that, and I've been meaning to check it out.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. My understanding is that it's a fairly grim, dark fantasy. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, so if you are familiar with The Sandman and love it, feel free to correct me in the comments. And then I also am excited to watch House of the Dragon. There was something else. Well, I keep meaning to watch Moon Knight.
Yeah.
And I haven't yet. I know I'll like it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I'm mildly intrigued by the She-Hulk show. But I don't know if I'm intrigued enough to actually watch it or not.
I've seen funny clips.
Me too.
And people have said good things about it. So.
I know. So, but I haven't actually watched any of those shows. They're just on my list.
You got a big list.
I can't tell you my list of books because that would take entirely too long. But.
Once you get through Campaign 2, you'll have a ton of free time all of a sudden to watch all these other shows.
I know, and I'm like really wanting to get through Campaign 2 because I am getting nervous that Campaign 3 is going to start dropping a bunch of spoilers. Just the way things are lining up. So I'm like, I gotta get through Campaign 2 so that I can enjoy Campaign 3 without being worried about stuff. So.
Although I would say that Campaign, like the character that was mentioned in this last episode, I had to look up who they were.
Okay.
I was like, wait, they're connected to the Cerberus Assembly. Who are they again? And then I had to look it up. I was like, oh, that character that we met like twice.
Okay.
They're not like, they don't play it. I mean, they're like a big power player like in the world, but they don't play a huge role. They do get met, you know, but like.
Sure. But they also like sent a message to Keyleth.
Yeah.
And like, so I just want to like get caught up so that
More acquainted with that.
yeah. And maybe someday I'll go back and do campaign 1, but I'm not going to be mad about spoilers from campaign 1. So
No, yeah.
as they come up. But since I'm actively watching campaign 2, I would like to mitigate as many spoilers as I can, even though I'm fully aware that I'm watching super late. You know? So, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
absent parent trope.
Yes. So the reason I wanted to talk about this was someone had sent me a TikTok about the current trend in a lot of Disney and Star Wars properties that's orphan plus dad. Plus new dad.
Found father figure.
Found father figure. And this video was talking about, you know, why this is just a version of the damsel in distress, where the child is the damsel. And a lot of times it's a female child, but not always. Because, like, they used The Mandalorian as an example, and I was like, I don't know if we know, like, Grogu is a boy or a girl. He's a little alien baby. I assumed boy because we call him Baby Yoda, and we presume that Yoda is a boy. But now
Everyone in the show has gendered Grogu as he, though.
Have they? Okay. And then I couldn't remember, so I was like, well, maybe they haven't. I don't know. But you're right. They have.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm second guessing myself.
Yeah. It's all good.
But anyway, so the child being the damsel figure, and then the father figure being the knight in shining armor. So the question that was risen in that video was, why can't they be a found mother figure? Or why do we have to keep, like, finding sneaky ways to get the damsel in distress trope into media? Which, that's not necessarily a conversation that I want to tackle. Although I think it's linked to this. Because, like, if we're looking at Stranger Things as an example with Eleven and Hopper, she does go live with Joyce Byers for a while. And so then she does have the found mother trope. And she really has a found mother and a found father in those two characters. So I think Stranger Things has done a nice job of, like, balancing that out. And Joyce is kind of like the surrogate mother for all those kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that video got me thinking about how many movies, books, TV shows there are where the parents are just gone. Whether they're dead or they're just absent or what have you. And so I thought we could talk about that absent parent trope.
Yeah. I feel like a big reason why the absent parent trope exists is because that means that the main character is free to go out and do these super dangerous things without having anybody to worry about them back at home.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the main reason. It becomes more difficult to come up with, like, reasons why their parents wouldn't try to stop them.
Yeah.
So it's easier to just kill them, or come up with a reason why they're absent. Either they're dead, or they're halfway across the globe, or, like, they are, like, if it's like Star Wars, or even Spider-Man, where you get raised by your aunt and uncle, and you don't know who your real parents are, and then something happens to your aunt and uncle, or you're just your uncle if it's Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
OG Spider-Man.
So I feel like, yeah.
The newest version of Spider-Man didn't have an uncle, right?
That already happened before we had met him with Tom Holland's.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, that's fine. I'm kind of glad I didn't have to watch Uncle Ben die again.
Yeah. Me too.
That was getting hard to watch. Because it's just so emotional and sad.
Sure. Yeah, it's very sad. So I feel like that's the main reason in my head. It's just to give the make it so that there's not as many it's if your character has to worry about curfew, there's maybe less situations you can put them in, like story wise. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of My Hero Academia, where the parents aren't necessarily absent, like the parents are around, but a way for Horikoshi, the writer, to work around the parent issue is that he had them all move into the dorms. So then they aren't with their parents.
Yep.
Their parents still certainly worry about them, but they're not like a factor that the students necessarily consider like, oh, I gotta be home in time for supper. Nope. Because they're in a dorm. So they don't have to worry about that.
Yep. Exactly. And like Hogwarts.
Yeah.
All the kids get sent off to school and parents can't come with, and they just do stuff.
Right.
And Harry Potter lives with his aunt and uncle because his parents are gone.
Right. What about Finding Nemo?
That one's tricky because Nemo is not even necessarily the main character, and his name's in the title. I would say his dad's more the main character because he's the one that's like embarking on this quest to go like solve the problem,
Sure. Yeah.
And he's the one interacting with all these people along the way to try to get his kid back. Nemo is Grogu,
Yeah.
So they also kind of flipped the script and made the story about the parent instead of the kid.
Right.
But they, instead of taking the parent away from the kid, they took the kid away from the parent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing with that is like certainly the mom is gone. Thanks, Barracuda.
That was a traumatizing scene.
Oh, so bad. I just remember watching that with Grandma and her being like, "This is a sad movie. I do not want to watch it." It's like, it gets better, I promise.
Don't watch Up with Grandma.
No.
Oh boy.
But in a lot of ways, Nemo's dad, Marlin, is his name Marlin?
Or is it Marvin? Merlin.
I don't know. It was an M name.
Yeah.
Like, as much as he's a helicopter parent for Nemo, he's also kind of an absentee parent because he's so caught up in like wanting to protect Nemo from everything that he's not noticing and realizing Nemo's immediate need for a parent to just like love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, which is super interesting. Very deep for a Pixar movie. Well, deep for a children's movie. Pixar goes that hard all the time.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
But
Onward.
Ooh. I only watched that movie once and it made me a mess.
That movie, the entire premise is the main character coping with the death of his father.
Right.
And trying to like use a magic spell to bring him back for a day. Very, very emotional movie, but also very, very good and very, very well done.
Oh.
And it's a fun concept, like with the D&D like fantasy elements.
Yeah, I should rewatch it now that I know more about D&D.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool movie. Very sad. But yeah, it's definitely something that, and like you were saying about like Disney and Pixar movies, that's a lot of them do that. The parents are often, well, it's like their biological parents might not be there, but they end up finding parent figures along the way to like help them out. It's just also unfortunate where it's also a trope where that mentor figure that they come across ends up dying also.
Right. A la Obi-Wan and Luke.
Yeah. Or Gandalf.
Yeah.
Like the wise mentor figure usually bites it.
This is true.
So and that just becomes another obstacle for the character to
Frodo doesn't have
overcome.
parents.
Nope. He was raised by his uncle, his crazy, weird, eccentric uncle.
Who was certainly not going to hold him back from an adventure.
Who keeps fiddling with that ring in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Sam's dad is still around, though. He probably would have said not to go if Sam had asked him.
Like, what are you talking about? Go dig up those potatoes in the backyard.
Right.
And then there are some characters that have parents that are just terrible.
Well, yeah, that's a different trope.
Cinderella, Faramir.
Well, okay, but Cinderella is also a dead parent trope because
That's her stepmother.
It's her
Yeah, you're
stepmother
right.
because her mom died and then her dad married again and then he died and then stepmother was horrendous.
Yep, you're right.
Tarzan, dead parents, adopted by
Oh, Tarzan.
apes,
Yeah.
gorillas.
I think they're gorillas, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarzan's for sure one. Yeah, I mean, really, I think it's mostly a storytelling device to have there be less restrictions on the character.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think that at some point I would like to talk about the damsel in distress and like why we keep trying to rehash it or repackage it. But
Yeah. I think,
it's a
I mean,
big
because Finding
conversation.
Nemo is also like that, but instead of a damsel, it's your kid. You know, I think that
You could say that
that's-
Dory is a damsel in distress.
I never saw the sequel with the Dory situation, so I don't know what that movie was about.
It was not good. I would not
Okay.
watch it. Would not recommend. It was
Okay, that's good to
super subpar, in my humble opinion.
Was it like Mulan sequel
Oh,
territory?
worse.
Worse than Mulan's sequel?
Yes,
Okay.
I think
The
so.
one that went straight to
Dory should
straight to
have
DVD
gone.
sequel?
Dory
Okay.
should have done that. The only reason I didn't was because it was Pixar. It was Disney Pixar, but you
Well, I
know.
can't win all the time.
You know
But,
what? I'm gonna just say that Disney's straight to DVD sequels are not always terrible. The Return of Jafar was great.
You know what? You're right. That was actually a really good
Okay,
sequel.
thank you. And the third one was also good.
Mm.
I can only think of the ad for it right now, but it was also good. The wedding.
We're finally getting married.
finally getting married in the city of Agrabah. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I just did a little dance for it because they're
I know
dancing.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Aladdin doesn't have any parents.
True story. Well, until you watch the third one.
Well,
then
in
you
the
meet
first
his dad.
one, he doesn't have any parents.
That's true. He's an orphan.
He has it's again absentee parent that isn't involved.
Wheel of Time. And Wheel of Time, do those you would know better than I? The chosen ones. Are they all parent free? Parentless? Parent free is probably a bad way to put that.
No, parent free.
Parentless.
No. All of them, I don't know about Nynaeve actually, but all of them, except for maybe Nynaeve, asterisk on Nynaeve, because I'm just not sure, had parental figures when they left. There's some spoiler stuff in there that I don't want to get into.
Sure.
But I mean, if you've watched the first season of Wheel of Time, you can infer that Tam is not Rand's biological father. Because there was
Right.
that scene with the Aiel woman who was pregnant, who was fighting off those warriors.
Right.
And then Tam walks up as she's giving birth and she's wounded.
Right.
So you can infer, okay, that's Rand. That was just given birth to on this the side of this volcano.
Right.
Yeah. So, but he had Tam, who was his adopted father, who was still alive when he left. So they all did have parent figures actually, but that one was more unique because they had to leave because they were attracting the attention of the Dark One, and
Right.
so they were leaving to like take some heat off of all their family and friends so that they wouldn't all get slaughtered by evil creatures.
Right. I just couldn't remember if they had parents or not. They're also older. Like they're not like adults, but they're not like.
They aged them up in the show.
Oh, did they?
They did. Yeah.
So in the books, they're
in the
kids.
books they are they not well yes. Nynaeve again. Nynaeve is older than they are. She
Right.
would be young adult, not. And when I say young adult, I don't mean like 18. Like she's probably early 20s.
Okay. I just
But
need
then-
to read the books.
The rest of them are like I think they're like 17, 18. I think I could be wrong though.
Okay.
I'd have to double check that. They did age them up in this show though.
Okay. That's fair.
So
What about Aragon?
it's been so long. I think he does have a dad
Yeah,
and a brother
I was thinking the same thing.
that live on their farm, but then the brother gets like conscripted or something to join the military.
This is weird, but Aragon gives me very similar vibes as Wheel of Time, and I don't know why that is.
It's because it's a farm boy
Is that what it is?
that turns
probably
into
what
an
it is.
epic warrior and
Okay.
learns how to use magic.
Which is different from Lord of the Rings because Frodo is just a homebody that
Yeah.
went home and
Yeah.
stayed a homebody.
The main difference with Aragon and Wheel of Time being that Aragon learns how to ride a dragon and Rand is called the dragon.
Right.
The Dragon Reborn, because it's more of a title. It's not like an actual thing.
So you say. I'll have to read to find out on my own.
You will. You sure will.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Mistborn, the main character, Vin, orphan, has no family. She's just kind of that rogue character who it's like a street rat. Stormlight Archive, one of the characters has no parents. The other one does have parents, but he's afraid to go back to them because he thinks he disappointed them. So there's Stormlight Archive has some more subtle things, but also Brandon Sanderson does a lot of. He really likes turning tropes upside down and
Yeah.
messing with you in a good way. Like he's really good at subverting expectations in a good way that doesn't feel cheap. Like it makes sense. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like he did it just to do it. You know?
Right. So in Ray Carson's Walk on Earth a Stranger, that series, which I read, gosh, I was reading that when we first started the podcast. Excellent series. Highly recommend. But that first book, it starts with her losing her parents. Pretty horrendously. And so then that sets her in motion to try and get to safety in a place where she can thrive. Man, those are good books. Another found family type of situation in Trope. You should read those. I think you would like them.
Cool. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah.
Aang is the last airbender.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a people anymore. We all know about Katara's mother. And
if you've watched Avatar.
yeah. And their dad is a military commander off doing his thing, so he's absent. You know, Sokka is the one that's like trying to be the man of the household. Toph, her parents are helicopter parents, and she runs away because they're
Too much.
treated with kid gloves, and she just wants to fight people.
Yeah.
And Zuko,
Whoa.
yikes, daddy issues.
And mommy issues. Poor kid.
I mean, he liked his mom.
Yeah, but she
That one's
disappeared out of
yeah.
nowhere.
It's not so much like mommy issues as much as like I feel like that feeds into the daddy issues with that
Yeah.
because he thinks that his dad is responsible for it, which I mean, yeah,
He
but
was sort of.
correct. Like he was correct in that thinking. Yeah, everyone in that group, none of them have any kind of like authority figure to, except for Mizuko does have Uncle Iroh. So there was a voice of reason for Zuko, but pretty much all of them were just like kids doing their own thing, doing what they wanted.
Appa is the parent.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
flying bison. Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Gon doesn't
is
have.
like it's the whole
Well,
point of the show is Gon finding his dad
right.
because his dad left to go work. I feel like that's a Japanese trope. Like
Yeah, because that also happens
dad
in My
is-
Hero. Midoriya's dad is just gone
yeah,
working.
like my dad's not around. He works abroad. Like
Strange.
weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Like that's just a thing. Like there's other anime too that I've watched where like these like high school kids just live on their own in apartments and then go to school, and their parents like send them money. Like, is that just a? I'll have to look that up if that's just like a thing in Japanese culture where the like teenagers are just very self sufficient and independent over there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
It's a good question.
yeah. Anyway,
I feel like you were going to say something about Hunter right after Hunter x Hunter, and or right after Avatar, and I sidetracked you with Hunter x Hunter.
oh well, and I was just gonna say that. Oh, you sidetracked me with Hunter x Hunter. I think I was done with Avatar. I was going to say with Hunter x Hunter, there's also Kilo's parents who are like assassins and like just not good influences either. So it's like either in a lot of these stories, like the parents are either deceased, absent, or they were terrible influences, or they were some kind of roadblock for the character to overcome and move past, and so they've kind of cut ties. They could still be on good terms, but they don't like live with them, you know.
Right.
So basically, in effect, it gives you the same effect where your character is allowed to make decisions for themselves without having to like ask their parents for permission.
Yeah.
Like, Mom, can I go slay the Dark Lord? So, what were you gonna say?
I just remembered something that I read.
What?
I read these two graphic novels. The first one is called Sheets, and the second one is called Delicates. And the first, it's about like so laundry, but also
The laundry definitely reminded you of this, didn't it?
it did, but also the main character in Sheets, her mom owned this laundromat. More like a dry cleaning facility, but they did like other people. Like they did a laundry service. So people would bring them their laundry and they would wash it and then fold it and hand it back to them. And then her mom died. And so the first story is about her like coming to terms with that and like what does it mean to be a high school student while grieving. And the dad is like trying, but he's also grieving and is not doing a good job of it. And so she's like having to be mom to her little brother. And anyway, it's all like tied up in the same kind of story, right? Yeah. And then by the end, she kind of finds herself and then Delicates is about her, like, she kind of got in with the It crowd, and then they were terrible. Terrible people. And they
Funny
were
how that works.
super mean to this other girl who is neurodivergent. And so, hence being called Delicates. Anyway, and there's like ghosts. There are ghosts, like in Sheets. The ghosts are like sheets.
Wait,
and
you
then,
said this is a graphic novel?
Yes.
I feel like I've picked this up and flipped through it in Barnes and Noble.
It's good. The
I feel
story
like
is
I've
good.
seen like the art from this somewhere. Maybe it's out on TikTok or something. I don't know, but this is ringing a bell for me.
I would say that like the art is not Like when you're reading graphic novels, or specifically manga, you get kind of used to like manga style of drawing. So when you're
Oh,
introduced
okay.
to like American
The proportions are more
graphics,
like,
it's different.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
that's
mean?
fair.
The ghosts, super cute. The humans, they look weird to me, even though they look more like humans than manga characters do. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I know
Yeah.
what you mean.
So, but anyway, the story is really good. Would recommend. But
They don't have giant anime eyeballs. Like,
no, no.
I feel so. I think like Western proportions in cartoons, like when it's that kind of style, are like more. They're more trying to be realistic. Like another example being, um, it's a show that's out right now. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Um, it's animated. It's on Amazon. It's got Omni Man. It's
Omni Man.
the guy that voices J. Jonah Jameson in Spider Man is Omni Man. Oh my gosh, what is that show called? But it's animated.
I
Um,
don't know.
it's about like superheroes and stuff. But shows like that are, I feel like they're trying to be a little more realistic with like the proportions, even though it's a cartoon. But then you've got things
Mm-hmm.
like Popeye, you know,
Right.
like there's such a wide spectrum of like Western animation and like body
Right.
proportion stuff,
Well,
which
and
is the
like
same with like anime and stuff.
it,
But
totally, totally. You just get. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. You just get used to a certain style, and then when you switch the style, you're like, it feels kind of jarring. But it's the same like if you go from watching a Pixar movie to watching a 2D old Disney movie. You know, like
hmm
if you watch The Incredibles and then you go watch Snow White, you're like, these
yeah,
are super different from each other. That kind of thing. The ghosts are super cute though.
yeah, okay.
And they turn into just like regular sheets during the daytime.
They just turn into regular sheets. That's awesome. That's really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's cute. And also like some of the topics that it covered were really poignant, like really good.
hmm
But yeah, I hadn't even thought about how it also played into the dead parent trope,
Yeah.
an absentee parent trope.
I mean, I can rapid fire even more. There's Mufasa.
Oh yeah.
That one.
Well,
Ouch.
so should we make a delineation between dead parent, like dead before the movie or book starts, versus dies in story?
I think absent slash dead parents are. I think if it happens in story, it counts.
Okay.
Um, because he still had to deal with that, you
Oh, for
know.
sure.
And then he went off and Hakuna Matata.
Right.
He got to just go off and do whatever he wanted, which is what writers of stories want their character to be at like the whole time because they want to be able to write them into whatever they want to write them into.
True.
Um, yeah, Mufasa, Emperor's New Groove. I love. I mean, Zuko does not. It's Zuko, right?
Cusco.
Yes. Oh no, it's Cusco. Who's Zuko's avatar? Sorry, Cusco. Same letters, different arrangement. So
Mm-hmm.
Cusco. He doesn't have any parents, right? He's the emperor. But I do love that we get to see, um, what's his name? Green Poncho and his wife be parents, and his wife is like pregnant, and they've
Mm-hmm.
got like two other kids, and they're like just great parents. I do like when we get to see really good parents. Is it like
Yeah.
Pancha or something? It's something like that because his name
Something like.
sounds kind of like Poncho.
Yeah, you're
He
right.
always wears a poncho.
Yeah, I just can't put my finger on what his name is though.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree that especially when you're in a story where like there are characters that have bad relationships with their parents or no relationship with their parents, it's
hmm
nice to see the juxtaposition of like a healthy family situation.
Andy doesn't have a dad in Toy Story,
Huh.
but Andy's like not really the main character. I almost wouldn't even count that. That's more of just like a family dynamic. Anyway, so there's a lot of stories out there where the parents are gone.
Yeah. I just think it's
One way or another.
different. I think it's telling a different story if the parent is already gone versus if it happens in story. And I don't mean in the
That's fair.
prologue, because I think Finding Nemo, like, that happens in the prologue.
Yeah, because I mean, for one of them, it just depends on when it happened to the person, because
Right.
it's either going to be a part of the story, like it's something that the character overcomes, or it's something that they've been living with for a while, and it's just part of their life, like
Right.
it's just a different routine that they have because of that.
Right.
So yeah, and it's like, is it a story about overcoming loss, or is it a story about going off and doing this thing, and the character needed to not have things like roots
Right.
holding them down?
Because I think
know.
I think that, to your point about Mufasa, I think that is a story about overcoming loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Finding Nemo, even though Mom does technically die on screen, it happens in the prologue before Nemo could ever even know her. I think that that's a story about self-discovery.
Yeah,
which is different than
and it's also
overcoming loss.
yeah.
That's a
'Cause
component to it. You know what I mean? But I think it's
Yeah.
different. I think it's a different story.
I think he's definitely still trying to overcome the loss of Nemo's mom, Mervin or Marvin or whatever.
I think it's
Merlin.
I think it's Marlin, because that's a funny
Marlin.
because that's a funny name for a fish,
Yeah.
because a marlin is a kind of
Yeah.
fish. Well,
But
but Nemo is also different, because it's not about the parent, or it's not so much about the child dealing with the loss of a parent as much as it is about a spouse dealing with the loss of a spouse. That's also different.
and also having to deal with a kid that has
Run away, sort of.
a physical handicap
True.
because of Nemo's fin,
True.
which was because of the accident that took his mom.
True.
There's a lot of layers to Finding Nemo.
Yeah. So I think that, but I think all of that means that Finding Nemo doesn't necessarily fit, even though we've talked about it a lot in this episode, under this umbrella of like lost or dead parent, absentee parent.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit as cleanly anyway.
I was just saying, I didn't realize until we were talking about it how many layers Nemo has.
No,
Finding Nemo.
for sure.
Whoa, there's a lot going on in that movie.
There is.
But
we've said it before. Pixar goes hard.
They do. They really do.
So
yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely a trope that's commonly used.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when I just come to expect it, honestly, just because I know that it's either just a storytelling device that the writer's using, or it's part of the story. Even though I have not lost a parent, I still don't. It's not like I can't sympathize, with the character.
Well, right, and I think that
I just mean to say that even though I personally haven't experienced the loss of a parent, it doesn't mean that I find those stories any less compelling. Is all I'm saying.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Like, wow, can't relate to this character. Trash movie.
No.
Would never recommend Onward to anyone.
I mean, honestly, grateful that I don't relate directly.
No, right. Like, nobody wants that,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's that trope.
Yep. Sorry to take on a dark one this week, but I was just thinking about it, and I was like, there's plenty to talk about with that.
Good.
So.
Yeah, man. It's all good. So next week we get to do a read-along.
Hall of Smoke, chapters 20 through 25, part 5.
Part 5. Yeah. I'm excited about that one. I hope that character that we left off with last time gets to come back eventually, because they were fun.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah. So tune in next week for Hall of Smoke. Cool. So I guess until then, happy reading.
And we'll talk.
Go read something cool. Sorry, go read something cool. That's happy reading is what I say for the read along.
Yeah.
Also, go like give your parents a hug.
Oh yeah, do it. Do it.
Anyway, yeah, until next time, go read something cool.
And we'll talk at you next time.
Later.
Bye.